I told my boss, I'm gonna go make an appointment to see a physical therapist because I'm just having pain in my back. He literally said, oh, don't worry about it, don't come back. I knew from that point on, I didn't want to work for nobody else again, and this is the time to go after my dreams.
You reflected on your life and saw that it wasn't working for you and it needed some improvement.
You gotta sacrifice to get to the goal that you're trying to achieve. I shot maybe 5 years more or less for free before I actually started making money. In 2004-ish, I was beaten up, left for dead. They took all my equipment. I was ready to give up the studio, and she's like, no. And when it started all over again.
Defying the odds and escaping a turbulent youth. Our guest is a celebrated celebrity photographer with 30 years of experience. That's amazing. He owns a media center called Media City, which he uses as a hub for creators and creates a safe space for teens to learn their craft and also learn how to pursue their dreams. And most importantly, keep them off the streets. Welcome, Felix Natal Jr.
My brother, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be here.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy, productive person, giving back to the community. You just welcomed a new child to the family?
Not yet. The baby be born in hopefully about 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. Yeah, the due date is actually June 13th, but they just pushed it up a week.
Okay.
So, because my son is getting too big, they said. He's
comfortable.
Yeah, it's time to come. It's time to come out. But hopefully, he should be here by between the 5th and the 7th.
Praises, man.
Yes.
Praises.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
And I definitely want to, as we get into the conversation, I want to speak to you about how is it managing your family life as well as entrepreneurship, giving back to the community. I mean, you do so much, and we definitely want to talk about that because there's many of us in that same position. Talk about that, man, because I'm gonna tell you, I keep it real.
I feel like that movie Cheaper by the Dozen.
Well, you and I both had.
I remember our conversation.
I had older children
and young. I remember our conversation.
So we're in the same boat.
Yes, sir.
I'm keeping it real. I'm struggling with that, and I'm dealing with it to the best of my ability. And I have an amazing wife, right? I am struggling with managing everything, like I have a grandson as well. And I said this on one of our episodes, right? The other day, I remember I was coming home from, out here grinding, and my grandson, he calls me Peace Dad. He's like, Peace Dad, come play with me outside, right? And it made me sad because I had to go to my next client. And I was like, damn it, man. Like, here I go. Like, I'm still not in a position, right? And so, make a long story short, I am struggling with managing everything. I'm doing the best that I can, and I have a great support system, so I'm grateful for that. So tell us about how you manage. Not only are you raising your own children, you have older, you got a younger one coming, grandfather. You're also really essentially assisting the community with raising some of the village's children.
Of course.
Right? So how do you manage it all? Entrepreneur, Media City, your own entrepreneur, individual projects.
I ain't gonna lie, it's not easy. I'm always tired.
Okay, me too.
I'm always tired. No matter how much I rest, I'm always tired.
I always got bags in the eyes.
Same here, brother. I won't lie, I'm a little nervous, kind of like what you said, because when I had my other son in 2012, I switched where it was like, okay, now I don't want to hustle and kill myself like before, and I don't want to be where I don't spend no time with my son. So I had to try to balance it out. Now that we have the facility, now that the nonprofit's approved, and then we didn't even get into yet the next facility we're going to try to open in Patterson, and then now the baby's coming and I'm thinking about going to school. Yeah, I'm a little nervous about it, and I'm hoping that I could have the time to stretch myself the right way. But, just my wife, good support system, family, just going to take it one day at a time. I'm excited to be a dad again, to be honest. We were trying forever, and, we thought it was a girl, it's another boy. but I felt like that was my best friend coming back. He was like, he had to have his little boy first, and then I'm going to give you his little girl. So,
Blessings.
You know what I mean? So, and then my son called the other day, said, I'm going to be a grandfather again with a little girl. So I said, maybe that's the little girl. You know what I'm saying? So
how did you choose? And the reason why I'm asking this, because we see an issue in the community with dysfunctional homes. there's a lack of masculinity, breakups, right? Having children, baby mothers, all of that.
Children raising children.
Right. We have a whole bunch of things going on in the community. And so, and I have, children from another woman, right? And so how did you know your wife was the one? How were you able to have the insight to know she was the one, right? And how do you manage that? And I just want to say, too, just from someone who sees that one of our biggest issues is the lack of masculinity, thank you. Thank you for not only being, again, I'm going to reiterate that, not only being a parent to your own, but also being a positive representation of masculinity for the community. So talk about the importance of relationship, your second half and whatnot.
Oh, man, my wife is amazing. But to answer your question, how I knew she was the one, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was living my life real foul back then. You know what I'm saying? I always tell my wife, we've been married twice. I say the first husband was a shitty husband. The second one was a man of God. And he's been amazing.
Beautiful. That's an amazing story, though.
You know what I'm saying? Like the first one wasn't shit. He wasn't shit, but the second one has been beautiful and perfect since I took my vows that second time. But I went through. I had a situation where I was robbed in 2004-ish. Yeah, 2004-ish. I was beaten up, left for dead. They took all my equipment, and like they said, all them girls bounced. And my girl, which was just a girl I was dealing with at the time, literally was like, nah, I'm gonna help you rebuild this. We're gonna put in bulletproof windows. We're gonna put in an alarm system. We're gonna put in tinted windows. We're gonna do all these things that we didn't have prior to the incident. And I was ready to give up the studio. And she's like, no, we're gonna go buy new equipment tomorrow, and we're gonna get all this stuff you need, and we're gonna start it all over again. So I knew from that point on, I was like, nah, this is definitely the woman for me. And like literally, as ironic, yesterday was the 19th year anniversary when I proposed to her. So I literally was like, you're going to go back to school, you're going to graduate. You know what I'm saying? She graduated from Pace, and I proposed that day.
I saw that.
Yeah, thank you, bro. And, she's been with me ever since, and through all the good, bad, ugly, whatever. And even today, like, I'll be sure, I don't like, what's the word, public speaking, but I know it's part of my job, especially with the next chapter that God put into my life, so I have to. So even just this morning, her just praying for me and just going over the questions with me prior to me even coming here, it just gave me such a sense of peace. She's like, this is your call. And she's like, stop blocking your blessings because of your insecurities or your fear or you thinking that you're not good enough to help the kids, or you are, because I always say, I don't feel like I'm a teacher per se, because I told that in my church this morning, because I was like trying to figure out how to go about the alternate route. I don't know if you know what that is, but alternate route is basically where you try to get into education. So being that I'm helping children and I'm getting asked to speak at all these schools, they were like, why don't I teach like a hip hop photography course at a university or a high school? So in order to do that, you have to go through the alternate route. And I was telling her that I don't feel I'm like a teacher per se, but I feel I have the experience that most professors don't have, because we go to all these education schools, universities, all this stuff, and all these teachers, professors that speak to us or give the class, 9 out of 10 times have no experience in the workforce whatsoever. They can't even tell you how to move in that room or how to network. So that's why I feel like a person like myself will come in with the experience aspect of it. I'm not going to give you like textbook savvy. Hey, page 1 we're going to do this. Page 2 we're doing this. My style is different, but that's how I feel like I'll be able to help the kids and be able to teach is in my way.
It's interesting. As I'm listening to you, I realize that when we give into our fears and our insecurities, it's an act of selfish. We're being selfish, because when you do give into your insecurities and your fear and you're not living out your purpose per se, now other people don't get to benefit from you. Mm-hmm. And so when we do that, we're being selfish. Mm-hmm. So, salute to your wife. Thank you. And also salute to you for not being selfish.
Thank you.
So tell us about your youth. I know that you bounced around from different high schools and we're getting into some things. Tell us about that.
Okay, so I was originally born and raised in Harlem. I lived on 75 South Street, which is Grand Projects on 125th Street. My parents moved to New Jersey when I was 9 years old. And I was thinking about that the other day. I said from the 6th grade all the way to the time I graduated, I never was in a school than more than one school year. And some school years I actually wind up being multiple schools because whether it was, discipline issues, my parents moved in a lot as well because there was always supers. So there was the supers in Foster Village where we first moved to Jersey, which is in Bergenfield, and then on Newman Street in Hackensack, and then on Pendle Avenue in Inglewood. So it was like we always moved. And so it was always hard for me to get an education, get friends. And I suffered an injury when I was about 10 years old where I fell out of a second floor window, and that's how I got the scar on my head. And I always felt like I had a learning disability because of that. So, it was always hard to acclimate with the different schools and the teachers and then just getting into trouble. And then finally, when I always say it was the greatest thing that happened to me because if I would have got arrested as an adult, there would have never been no photographer, there would have been no kids, no nothing. So 2 months before my 18th birthday, I got caught selling drugs in 4 school zones. And they wanted to give me 3 to 5 years per school zone. So they dismissed it all because I never got in trouble. They gave me a $10,000 fine, 5 years probation. So through that process, that's how my mom met Jerry West, who became my mentor in photography.
You said a lot in there that I definitely want to unpack, right? What would you say was the spark, or was there a cause to you acting up? Was there something, or was it just regular youth, just you being a youth and a reflection of your environment?
Be transparent. I always had problems making friends. I always say to this day, I'll be honest with you, I always say my camera is the reason why I have friends, because I always felt like whatever insecurities, whatever it was as a child, I could gravitate with people for whatever reason. And even to this day, I would say, I'm very to myself. So 9 out of 10 times, unless a person starts the conversation, there won't be any, to be transparent. Mm-hmm. Even when we're out in events or networking and stuff like that, it's always someone coming to start the conversation. And I say all the time, like, you got to work on that. You got to be better with that. I speak to them and say, you got to be the person to introduce yourself first. The same thing I tell my kids. So I'm trying to practice what I preach through my sons, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, look, your dad has a problem with that, so you're not going to have a problem. You're not going to be shy. You're not going to be reserved. I want you to be outgoing. I want you to be passionate and driven. I don't want you to be fearful or scared.
I really appreciate you saying that because there's so many people out there with a fixed mindset, and you had the insight to be aware that, you know what, because I wouldn't call that necessarily a bad thing per se, but you reflected on your life and saw that it wasn't working for you.
Nope.
And it needed some improvement. And so I think that that's an amazing thing and a great trait for success, to be able to self-reflect and say, we have to improve these things. How did you develop that insight to just see that about yourself and then take the necessary tough actions to make the transformation?
I mean, of course, through the different trials and tribulations that I've been through my life, we all go through difficulties, and I would hope we learn from them. So that way we could share it with someone else and, say, listen, I know you're going through this, but I went through a very similar situation. So I'm hope that my testimony could uplift you to realize that no matter what the circumstance may be, you could get through it.
Wow. And you mentioned Jerry West?
Yes.
And so I read somewhere in a book about empowering masculinity, and they spoke about there's a lost art of mentorship, where it seems like in today's society, people are not taking on mentorship on both sides.
They want to think they know everything. That's the problem.
Right.
Or they want to think they know, or they want to know everything, but they're too afraid to ask for wisdom or help or knowledge. And that's what it takes. You know what I'm saying? People don't realize, it's always someone else uplifting or helping you in some form or fashion to get to that next level. It's not just you just stumbled upon it.
Indeed. And I think too is like, or they don't respect the older generation, and not necessarily just with age, but experience. And so tell us about that. Tell us about how you met your mentor and what was it about the dynamic of your relationship that made him see something special in you and you something special in him?
Well, I was, first of all, for the first time, I saw someone actually take an interest in me, which outside of my parents or family members, I didn't really have that growing up. So my mom just told him about like all the stuff I was going through. And he was like, you know, he had his best friend in high school. He passed away when he wound up getting killed by a train. So that just put me in a depression. And my mom was like, you know, he is a good kid. He makes bad decisions. And so she was like, you know, he loves taking pictures. I was always the guy with a camera, the Kodak disposable. That's how I used to shoot. Everybody used to be like, man, you take great pictures. And I'm like, I just had this little disposable camera. I just knew how to use lighting, you know, to my advantage, you know. And she's like, he takes great pictures. She was like, I would love to, you know, meet him. I met him, took me under his wing. I started going to different photo shoots with him and seeing how exciting it was, and the lights, the models, you know, the prepping, the makeup, the hair. And then, of course, finding out what he made that day, you know, I was like, oh, my God, that's not for the year. That's for the day. Like, it made me say, oh, my God, this is something I could definitely be interested in. So he said, look, I'll take you under my belt, show you how to shoot. I even remember recently, the other day, Jonas was in the studio. And I'm like, I remember Jerry used to always say, I used to shoot too much of the ceiling or the top part. And same thing with the photographer. I was in the studio. I was like, great shot, but we don't need all that ceiling. So it was like, I felt like his spirit was with me at that moment, you know, because he was an older gentleman, you know, and that was the other thing. He was like 60, I think 68 at the time when I met him in 92, and I was 17 years old, you know what I mean? So it was such a age gap difference, you know. He was a, you know, white guy, you know, I'm Hispanic, and for whatever reason just took a liking to me because of my mom, you know. My mom was just always a good person. She worked at Cleaners in Foster Village, and she was just always so good to people. So, or if they forgot something, money, wallet, whatever, in their things, she always gave it back to them. Wow. So they just always, you know, showed her love.
So there's a few things I want to unpack there. Now, you mentioned your best friend was killed by a train and you battled with depression. First and foremost, sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
How did you overcome that, especially in this day and time? You know, so many people are experiencing depression on many levels.
Well, I mean,
that's actually a very traumatic one.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I can't say that I'm an expert at it, you know, because, you know, I still go through it from time to time. You know, I did lose my adult best friend, you know, 2 years ago. Yeah, and it's been a trying time since then. That whole transition, you know, my best friend passing away, me catching COVID, like 4 family members passed away. So it was a lot. So, you know, I went through it again, but I just use my family, my children as motivation to just, you know, keep me uplifted and realizing that it's just a season.
Yeah.
Let
me ask. So yes. when you were going through those challenging times, how did it affect your work? I mean, did you work more during those times?
Definitely. So you just because my son said, I'm trying to hold my emotions together. My son said to me about 6 months ago, he goes, Dad, have you taken a break? And I said, what do you mean? He said, have you taken a break at all since Uncle Corey died? And I said, no, I'm sorry. He said, did you grieve? That was the correct word. I'm sorry. He said, did you grieve? And I said, what's that? And he says, I was like, nah, I just drowned myself right back into my work and just kept it moving. You know what I mean? And I haven't, you know, and like literally maybe like a week or two later, I finally like literally let it all out. But it was very, you know, and still is, I mean, a difficult time. You know, he went to sleep. He was only 46 years old, go to sleep on Christmas Day and not to wake up. You know, he has 3 children, you know, my godkids. So that was just very, very difficult. Very difficult.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's one thing that, you know, we notice oftentimes with men that, you know, we never learn about grieving or things like that. We learn about work. We learn about providing. You know, we never take that time.
Man up, tough love. You know what I'm saying? You can't show emotions.
Yeah,
you got to be strong. I was raised that way too, and I always say that's not always wisdom either.
Absolutely.
It's not nothing wrong with showing emotion. You know, I told my son, he said that to me the other day. He's like, Dad, I feel like I'm having an emotional breakdown. And I said, okay, what's wrong? It's okay. Talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, oh, I just feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not going to pass. And I said, it's okay. Relax. I said, just do your best. That's all you can do. As long as you do your best, I'm always going to be okay.
Yeah, you know, as a parent myself too, like even speaking with my son, that's one of the things that I share with him. I let him know when I'm going through something, because I want him to know that it's normal. And I think a lot of us, we think that it's not normal to feel overwhelmed or normal to feel sad or concerned or fearful. Like I'll tell my son, yeah, I'm a little fearful. But at the same time, also balancing that with and be tough. So it's okay to be both. And I think that as long as our sons and even us as men know, like, it's normal, it's okay. I think it's dangerous to not have, to actually to pin that up,
Oh, definitely.
and not channel it. You know, it's a process. You got to have something. So even the work, even though you should, you know, grieve at the same time, it allowed you a way to channel that energy in a productive way.
Yeah, same thing when he was having that emotional break, like that emotional breakdown. He was just like, "Oh, I can't take it. I can't." And I'm like, "Yeah, relax, breathe, breathe."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Is as long as you're doing your best, that's all that matters.
Well, and see, that's why I know you say.
And I said that like fearful. I said I get fearful. It's okay to be fearful.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? But you know, you got to keep going after the goal regardless.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay. But you know what I'm saying? That's part of life.
Yeah,
it's our faith, though. We know, again, as you know, us as believers, meaning me and my family.
Yes.
As believers, we know that God is going to provide for us. So it's up to you to understand and just walk in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you say you're not an expert in depression.
Yeah.
However, you dealt with it.
Oh yeah, I feel I'm an expert in the department, but not coming over it.
Right. So what you're sharing, because it's real.
Yes.
And us as a podcast, Raw Success, that's what we want to highlight. Realness about success. You know, because a lot of people, and again, I don't want to sound insensitive, a lot of people may use depression as an excuse. And so we get it. Everybody, you know, deals with trauma in their own way. But here you go, experiencing death at an early age, and severe injury and whatnot, and you still pushed forward. Now, something stood out for me. So, number one, that where you met the gentleman,
Jerry
West. Was that? I have another question that I want you to answer. But was that like a special arts school, or
it was just a nice school in the high school? That's it.
Wow.
That was
Which
it.
Jerry West was this? Because, you know, there's
No. I wish.
I just need to make
I'm a
everyone
diehard Lakers fan.
Okay.
I would have been bragging about that one. I learned from the great Jerry West. Trust me, I would have been bragging on that one. No.
So just had to get that clarity.
No. I wish, but no disrespect.
So you mentioned that you knew how to take pictures before even meeting him? Like,
oh,
you were
yeah.
already the picture guy?
Oh yeah, I was taking pictures in the high school. Like literally like in 10th, like if you ask any like high school people I went to high school with and stuff like that, even though I went to a lot of different ones, always had a camera. And I was always cool. That was the problem. The main reason why I had problems with everybody in these schools, because I was always cool with all the women.
Yeah.
And that was always the problem. You know what I'm saying? So women always caused me my problems pretty much my whole life. Prior to my wife.
Yo, fam. From the outside looking
I always had mad beef because of chicks. So just straight up, just being facts.
No doubt. From the outside looking in, and as an observer of your story, that was divine synchronicity. That was divinity. The fact that you had this natural knack for the camera, which we're gonna get into some more. And then you end up bouncing around to different high schools, and it seemed like a negative thing, but it seemed like it's the best thing for somebody like yourself. And even you being sort of like a introvert, so to speak.
Definitely.
I think that's perfect for the person behind the camera. So it's almost like divine synchronicity. I don't want to sound all, that just your personality, your makeup, and even the things that you've experienced was a perfect recipe for your celebrity photography and giving back to the community. It's the perfect recipe. You are a specimen and a product of divine synchronicity, my brother. You ever, like, for real, look at you. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to sound crazy. Like, your life, like, that story is amazing.
Thank you, brother.
You end up in this high school, it's a normal high school. You met this man and you already had a knack for it. And he was the perfect man to guide you on your journey. That was a blessing.
Yes, it was, definitely. I always say he saved my life. Definitely saved my life.
So what was the pivotal moment for you that you knew the camera was your thing?
I was doing parties at night and working at an ambulance job during the daytime. So I used to work for a private ambulance company from 5 a.m. to sometimes about 8 p.m. And then I would shoot clubs and parties at night.
I want, not to cut you, I want our audience to see what it looks like. He didn't just end up a celebrity photographer.
Nah.
There's a journey. He's working 2 jobs.
Yes.
Doing this thing, grinding,
Definitely,
right?
definitely. 15 hours a day at my regular job and then go shoot at night and then come right back with the club thing on my arm, going to pick up my first dialysis patient in the morning.
This is what raw success looks like.
Yeah, so, and I used to get hurt frequently at work, you know, because of course you're lifting people up all day. So the last time I got hurt, I remember was April 23, 2003. And I told my boss, I was like, I'm going to go make an appointment to see like a physical therapist because I'm just having pain in my back. And he literally said, oh, don't worry about it. Don't come back. Literally just like that. And I remember calling my mom and I'm like, yo, you won't believe it. These people literally just fired me because I was complaining about back pain. And she was like, well, I was literally telling her I want to open up a studio in Passaic that I saw. And she was like, why don't we she helped me, her and my uncle helped me put the money together. And we opened up my first real studio. It was Patterson. When I was on 22 Fair Street, it was a loft that I lived in, but I was shooting, but it was in a photo studio. 41 Central Avenue in Passaic was my first real photo studio. And we wound up opening up the studio, like I said, April 23rd, 2003. And through the grace of God, I haven't had to go back to work for no one since then.
So you had a back injury.
I still do. I have multiple herniated discs, so I have multiple herniated discs. I have a fracture in my neck, all from pretty much that job.
Wow. Again, right? I know you were in it and you were struggling. You were let down. I'm assuming. I mean, let me now assume. Actually.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, you're right. No, you're right.
What was that like? So you have a job and you get hurt from the job essentially, and you're like, you know what? Let me I need to get my back.
I wasn't trying to be funny, and I was gonna sue them. Yeah, I had 2 kids and I was on child support at the time, so I wasn't trying to lose my job or any of that because I didn't want no problems with child support.
So in addition to that, you have to provide for a family.
Yes, and I was working at this job 90 hours a week. 90 hours a week. That was my what I used to work, and they didn't care. They used to call me OT. And I'm like, wow. And that's the thanks I get for all the times I worked on holidays, all these different occasions. And so I was like, oh, nah, I knew from that point on, I didn't want to work for nobody else again. And I was going to put that same effort and time that I did into that job into my own business.
So let's walk back a little bit. You have 3 children, you said, at that moment?
At that time, 2.
You had 2 children, child support. You get left from this job. What's going on in your mind? What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Of course, fearful, scared, nervous. But I was like, I knew that I was like, if anytime, this is the time to go after my dreams. So we were like, I'm not going to say every month was beautiful and perfect, but each month gradually got easier and easier. And then little by little, we expanded. We started with 1 studio at 41 Central. Then I took over the other one literally right next to us. Then we wind up 2 years later taking over the 2nd floor studio as well, and then literally little by little, and then that's then in 2012 I tore my Achilles tendon, and that's when I wound up shutting Passaic down and was like, let me just focus on my family, my health, and God put on my heart that okay, the next step for you is to create a place that all creators could come to and work.
Yeah, and
that's when He gave me the dream of Media City.
Before we get there, in this day and time, there's so many people experiencing financial hardship, losing their jobs, a whole bunch of things.
Of course.
What words, and I want you to look at your camera, what words would you share with them? What words of inspiration and hope? What would you tell them as somebody that experienced that?
Well, first of all, just through COVID alone, I mean, just on our block, like 10 businesses went out of business. So it's like, how determined and driven were you to go after your dreams? How, no matter how much you have to sacrifice, how hard you're willing to work for it. If that's what you really want to do, that's what I would pour my energy into.
Beautiful. There's a saying, right, that says luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Tell us about Zab Judah.
Oh man, Zab. So first of all, I grew up a big boxing fan. Been watching boxing since I've been 8 years old. My dad. So when I first started doing photography, the first magazine I got an opportunity to work for was Don Diva, so the Street Bible. At the time they were like, oh, they wanted to get more athletes and into the magazine. So I had suggested Zab because I used to see Zab all the time at Lenny the Barber's parties and Three Stooges parties, and I was the photographer of both of them. So he was like, oh yeah, definitely, let's set it up. So I remember we did the shoot in Gleason's gym in Brooklyn. We shot him with, if I remember correctly, it was either 4 or 5 girls. Did this dope spread. And then we became, we were already cool, but we became cooler after that shoot. And then he had called me a couple months later and said, would I like to go to Indianapolis? And I said, oh, what's going on? He said, well, Dwight Freeney was having his, his weekend where he was like, we're going to have a concert. They were going to have parties, a bunch of different stuff. And they're like, they got this kid that's supposed to be the next big R&B artist. He's going to do his first performance named Chris Brown. So I go shoot it. I go shoot that whole weekend for them. And I wind up meeting, Dwight Freeney, Edrin James, like a bunch of Cole players. And that's basically how I got into shooting NFL players through Zab.
Wow.
Through Zab and my boy Cordell Taylor, who was the barber for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I shot a lot of, my first plays I ever shot was like Eagles and Colts. Those are like my most of the people I ever shot.
How did you get even in a position to be able to network with these people? Like, how did you position yourself in that way?
Well, like I said, the nightlife, truthfully, like I met everyone through the nightlife. Lenny the Barber, like I said, introduced me to Tiffany Childs, the owner of Don Diva magazine. After the Puerto Rican Day parade, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was 02, 03. And she was like, by any chance, did you get pictures of J-Lo, Mark Anthony, Fat Joe, and all them from the parade? I said, definitely. She's like, well, if you have pictures, bring them tomorrow. We'll put them in the magazine. That was like literally my first images ever put into a publication. Then she goes, oh, by any chance, do you have pictures of girls? I was like, do I? At that time, so, I was shooting mostly women. So we started the first eye candy stuff, which was sticky pages for Don Diva magazine. And then they were like, oh, by the way, we're going to shoot this kid that got the streets on fire. We're going to do his first magazine cover shoot named 50 Cent. And wound up doing his first magazine shoot for Don Diva magazine. And that and Gloria Velez, I shot her in that same time period, basically like a 2-week time period in September of 2003. And like they say after that, the rest is history.
If you can define what characteristics you had in during those times and in that moment that allowed you to be there, that allowed you to get invited to the spots, what would you say those characteristics and qualities are?
Very driven, passionate, hardworking, respectful. Like even with the celebrities, like I said that to a photographer the other day. I said, yeah, technically you're pressed, so you don't necessarily have to ask anyone for permission to take a photograph of them, but it actually would help if you did. Because if you say, hey, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know you're here with your wife, whatever, if it's an art celebrity, whatever. Do you mind if I take a photograph of you? 9 out of 10 times, they're more receptive to say, sure, no problem. And actually will appreciate that you said that. And next you know, they might engage with you. That's a nice picture. Yeah. Oh, why don't you send it to me? You know what I'm saying? And next you know, now you're building a relationship, a conversation with somebody. So a lot of times it's just, like I said, be respectful, hardworking, determined. Of course, have the talent.
Yeah, so and the talent, right? You got that.
Natural, natural gift. Yeah. I would say like my mom, she's the one that inspired me. Like she was the one that always was taking pictures. So I always say she's the one that put the camera in my hand. It was the greatest thing she ever did.
Yeah, salute to Mom Dukes.
Definitely. I wouldn't be here today without her.
Well, how do you feel about, so in this day and time, right, where everybody has phones, everybody's snapping pics, everybody's a photographer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so...
Everybody got a Sony.
Right. So the two questions that I have is, how do you feel about that? And how do you survive? No, the word isn't survive. How do you thrive in an era where people may not want to pay for pictures because they feel like, yo, I could just do it with my phone. I got the latest iPhone. I'm good.
Yep. Oh, trust me, we go through that still to this. We go through that too. You know, I always tell them, in my case, you know, I have set clients and customers that value and appreciate my work and what I give to them. It's not just about taking great photographs. It's, you know, I'm the project manager. Sometimes I'm providing the models. I'm doing this. Sometimes I'm connecting the dots. So your phone ain't gonna do all that for you. You know what I mean? So it's all about relationships. So do I like it? I mean, not necessarily, but it's part of the game too. So I always look at it like, if you're talented enough, your work will speak for itself. You know. So again, the people that value and appreciate you will pay you. Yeah, and the ones, you know, that don't, then those are not the customers for you, and you just have to not take it personal. It's hard, but it's like you can't. You know what I mean? It's just like they don't value, appreciate you. Then why even giving me your time or your energy?
And it says a lot for you to thrive, survive, and last during this era as well.
Of course.
Tell us about your what are your biggest challenges that you faced as a photographer, as a celebrity photographer?
Same things that more or less we just discussed, like people respecting the craft, the work. They don't want to pay you just because they feel, especially because of social media now. You know, they feel like everybody feels like they're an influencer, or they're like, oh, I got such a big following, I could help you. And I remember, I use an example for those interns out there. So I remember this photographer that wanted to work with us so bad. And we were shooting somebody big at the studio, I won't mention. And all I did was say, set up the lights, right? This person did a whole photo shoot, all this stuff. I'm upstairs on the phone. He did a photo shoot with this whole artist, put them online and everything before we even started the shoot. Oh, wow. Right? And I'm like, bro, why would you do that? Like I said, first of all, what he's wearing can't even be seen because it's not even coming out for 6 more months. You know what I'm saying? And I said, why would, he's like, he just wanted to, he thought he was going to get a big following, right? The dude had 414 followers, right? You know how many followers he has today? 414. He burned the bridge and all this stuff for what? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, that's a lot of people think about the moment, the instant gratification instead of the long term, you know, or the relationship, which is more valuable than anything.
So, in you speaking of longevity, to last 25 to 30 years in the business and seeing, like when you started, tech was nowhere near where it was today. How do you last that long? And what can you tell someone that's looking to get into the field today on what they need in order to be able to be doing this for the next 25 to 30 years?
Definitely learn everything you possibly can. Don't be afraid. You know, I'll be transparent. For, like I said, I had learning problems growing up. So for a long time, I would never want to come out of my comfort zone. And, you know, that's something that I regret. You know, like I wish I would have got into real estate or clothing and all these different things a lot earlier in life, because I was fearful, you know. So I would definitely tell you, got to learn as much as possible. Don't put your ego in it. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and definitely do interns, mentorships, because it's important. You know, if you want to be successful, learn from someone that you're trying to be like. That's what I always say. Like, if someone that's already doing it, then you want to learn from them. Don't try to learn from someone that ain't doing anything, because how do you gain from that? All they doing is being negative.
Heavy gems. What was, so I asked you about the biggest challenges. Before we get to that, you mentioned about burning bridges and stuff like that, and having narrow-minded view. We just dropped an episode where we spoke about the mistakes we did in our 20s. And that was actually one of my.
I'm glad I wasn't here for that one.
We might have to invite you for part 2. And one of the things that I mentioned is that, like, I never did anything like that. Just my morals and values about burning bridges. And I was in the streets, so burning bridges and doing foul stuff like that will get you hurt.
Yes.
But speak about that, having the long-term vision. How did you develop that? And what's the importance and value of doing, like, not doing stuff like that?
Right.
You know, especially for our audience, so they can learn from that experience as well.
Yeah, no, of course you want to stay positive, try to do the right things, be around positive influence people, just, go and, try to lead in the right direction,
Yeah. As far as the long-term vision, how did you know to, like, how does one value that and how does one develop that?
I knew that I wanted to be a photographer, since probably I was like 14 years old. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I was passionate and driven by it. I was like, no matter what was in my obstacle, even, my children, my first 2 kids, I was always on the road. I was always traveling. I was not going to let anything stop me from going after my dreams. Yeah. That's why when I had my last child, I was like, no, I had to switch everything up. And that's the reason, one of the main reasons why I opened up Media City, because I didn't want to do the same thing that I did to my last child.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? And it was just always just working, but never being present.
And with you having such an inside in with these people, how did you know not to be like that person and not burn any bridges or not release any photos or violate anyone? Did you have like some personal morals that you just?
Oh yeah. That's just my personal moral.
How did you develop that?
Oh, of course, my mom and my dad. I mean, we might not have much growing up, like I said earlier, but like they did teach, the fundamentals of, all the things that I always say that most people love about me. I get that from them.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Hard working, my personality, just being a people person. You know what I mean? Loving, compassionate. Heart, big heart. Gift and a curse.
Yeah. And I want to thank your parents because you have great positive energy.
Thank you.
And I feel blessed to have experienced that from being around you, going to your different events, and just having you as a friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so that's great. So I think that it speaks to something that needs to be valued and highlighted more, where you don't have to be grimy. You don't have to be shiesty, none of that. You could be a person with principles and morals and succeed doing it the right way. And also, for us who are parents, it also speaks about the importance of raising our children properly way. And even though materialistically they didn't have much, like he said, but they instilled in him morals and principles and things that he's applying to this day, which are worth more than materialistic stuff.
Definitely.
And it's the reason why he's successful now.
Facts.
Yeah.
Definitely, brother.
So I don't know if you want to speak about this, but what's like your favorite artist or athlete that you worked with and why?
I know I wind up always saying the same person, but it's probably Shaquille, just because being a big fan, growing up watching him play, even I remember, like I said earlier, diehard Lakers fan. So I remember like when they traded for him and me running to Garden State Plaza and getting the jersey. So for me to, admire someone like that and then just get the opportunity, to meet him, work with him, became friends with him, and to be able to have a working relationship for about 9 years, give or take, before he retired, and then still have a relationship to this day because he DJs, and whenever they're in the area, they hit me and say, could you come out and cover it? So, I think it's Shaq, definitely. And the fact that then eventually I got to do a calendar shoot there and having my cousins come, and be at Shaq's house, I think that was just crazy, because to be saying, I actually stayed at Shaq's house for like a week and he wasn't even there. and it's like, what? They're like, yeah. I was like, that I would never in a million years think, I've been blessed to work with a lot of amazing artists and athletes, but I would say, probably Shaquille.
And he's from Jersey.
Yes, sir. Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah. Yo, Shaq, we need you on the Raw Success podcast. You know what I'm saying? We got the official stamp from my man Felix. Come through. Yeah. Now, you're not just a photographer, you're also a entrepreneur.
I would say now I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not even a photographer. To me, I'm not even a photographer no more. I feel like I'm an entrepreneur because, to be transparent, like I feel like once Media City could transform to what it really needs to be, I probably wouldn't even pick up a camera again. You know what I'm saying? Because really, that's where my passion is at this point in my life, is to help the kids, help these, especially right now in Patterson, all these senseless shootings and all the craziness going on in the streets. Is like, I just want to uplift and be a blessing and show that these kids, you know, they have all this talent, utilize it, turn into a business, turn into a profit. You know, like Coach always used to say, you know, like show them that you could utilize your skill set, your talent, and make a living out of it. Yeah, fine, you might have to work another job in the meantime, but don't put your dreams down. You know what I'm saying? And if this is going to open up doors and take you out of the hood, why not?
And when you say where Media City needs to be,
yes,
what is that needs to be? What is?
Well, I mean, like my goal for Media City is to make it like a modern days Boys and Girls Club, but on a whole nother level, where you're dealing with all the arts, music, podcasting, everything. So the kids will learn everything, and then we have all the different artists, celebrity guests come in, so that the kids, like you said with Shaq. So now you're one of the youth doing a podcast. We'll say, Shaq, can you give these kids 10 minutes each? Like there's 5 kids, give them 10 minutes each. Okay, no problem. And now they're building their resume and they're getting experience. And then when they go into the workforce, now they got people with reputable names on their resume where they're like, wait, they might not gave them the opportunity, but because they're only 18, 19 years old, so they're looking at it like they can't have that much experience. But because they learned through Media City and got all these, you know, experience and reputable names underneath their belt, now they are given opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have been able to get before.
Yeah, and I can tell you, as someone who was once a troubled youth myself, I want to say, number one, I appreciate you because you are a representation of what people like me needed and what a lot of people still need, number one. So thank you for that.
Appreciate that.
Number two, I find that a lot of issue in our community, even it's not just with youth, it's also adults, is the lack of exposure. Just knowing, like I remember one time, right? One of my businesses is I'm a real estate signing agent, right? And so I had a signing agent with a scientist. And it was so dope, bro. Like number one, his house was amazing. It was a mansion in Morris County where I live. Amazing house. He pulled up playing hip hop, right? And his family treated me so well that I felt like I was a friend. You know what I mean? So they were millionaires and they treated me well, right? So there's a lot of already stereotypes already like going away that millionaires are jerks and all of that. But most importantly, what it did for me is like, we're drinking tea from California. He was like, yo, this tea's from California. You need to try it, right? You know what I mean? They're preparing the tea and everything. And he's a normal person. But I was like, in my mind, I was like, this is my first time meeting a scientist and what's possible and how much, you know, he was telling me about his job. So I say all of that to say, like, I just feel like exposure is so important. Like, you don't know what you're capable of until somehow you get exposed to it, you know, and Jerry West, for you, made you realize, like, yo, you're good with the camera. You can make money out of this. So that was like an exposure factor for you.
Yes, and I was, sorry, Benji, but I was telling Assemblyman Benji, right, that he was like, there's 12 schools in Patterson. He's like, I'd love for you to come speak to the kids, right? I said, the kids are not going to gravitate to me the same way like they are in my environment. If they come to the facility, they're going to get inspired.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to get uplifted. They're going to have a lot of questions. If I go to their school and just be like, this is just an old guy talking about his stories or what he used to do, whatever he used to do, they're not going to reciprocate it the same way. They're not going to appreciate or value it. And by them coming to the facility, it's a big difference. And all the kids that have come to so far to the facility, we've made an impact.
Yeah, I've been to Media City and I get inspired. Just be what's that room? Infinity room?
Yes.
I mean, just I've never been in a room like that.
Right.
You know, I'm a grown man. I'm like, wow, infinity, wow. I'm like, you know what I mean? It's just amazing. So tell us about your vision. So you have a nonprofit, right? And tell us how, for us and the audience to know how you're so do you have a curriculum? Are you just sharing jewels? Do you have
a little bit of everything? So they learn, of course, photography. They can learn, I mean, it's countless. You can learn photography. You'll learn video, music production, health and wellness, makeup, hair, barbering, real estate, coding. So it's so many different things that the kids can learn. The classes that we've been primarily focusing on, especially with the Patterson Police Department, is they've been doing music and photography and video. So our next class is actually June 1st, next Saturday. So the kids have been coming every 2-3 weeks or so, and they've been learning. So this coming up week, we got an assignment for them. So they're actually going to have to shoot a brand, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to submit it to this advertising company, and we're going to see if they'll use the photographs. So I want to help, like I said, inspire them, show them that they actually maybe be able to use something from me, because even from the last class with the kids, I was like, man, this picture was amazing. If you didn't cut off the top of the crown, I could have saw that going in the centerfold of a magazine, and the kid's face like lit up. Because he's like, all he's seeing around the places is images from magazines and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm like, no, I'm not playing with you. I'm dead serious. If you didn't cut that off, that would have been a centerfold of a publication. Yeah. And then the other kids were, well, my shot is better. Mm-hmm. I said, good shot, but it's not a centerfold of a publication.
So what's the difference between a good shot and a centerfold?
No, because you got to remember, when you open it, it goes across the 2 pages. You know what I'm saying? Like the shot he shot was good for one page, or maybe like a cover. Like the one kid's shot was pretty decent. I could maybe use it for a cover, but the other kid's shot was good for a centerfold. You know what I'm saying? When you literally open up the magazine, you'll see it go across the 2 pages. So that was the one I said that would have been perfect for. And so that, forget about it. And then there was another kid that came. He was from where A Boogie's from, and they tried to shoot him 2 times already. He's 13 years old. They tried to kill him twice. So the kid came, recorded for the first time in the music studio, made a dope song, not just because it was out of our facility, like it was a dope song. And the kid's mom called saying, how do you know any other studios in New York that I could take him to so I keep him out the street? So I already looked at it like, man, that's a win, because, man, they're trying to kill this boy, and now he's in the music studio.
So as you're saying this, you remind me of, I was in the 8th grade, and a teacher told me, it was some essay, and then she told me that I'm a great writer, and I never heard anything like that before. Mm-hmm. And even as something as small as that, here I am, like maybe 30 years after that, and I still remember that. So you taking the time to say that to the youth, like you're instilling something in them that's gonna live with them for a long time. And just that word alone might just have changed their entire life path, so that's powerful, that what you're doing.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, you're saving lives.
That's what we're trying, brother. That's the goal. That's the dream.
You're not just teaching media. You're saving lives.
That's the goal, brother. Like the skill is the bonus. You know what I'm saying? It's literally taking these kids and getting them out of the street, keeping them out of the jail system, keeping them out of the morgue. You know what I'm saying? It's more about showing them, like, you know what? You could do this. You know what I'm saying? Like gangs and all that other stuff is not what's up at all. You don't need that in your life. You know what I mean? A lot of times it's because they don't have nobody that cares for them. So at least if they come to a facility where they can see that people are compassionate, loving, that want to see them succeed and win, you know what I'm saying? That's the goal of the place. That's the dream of Media City,
I'm sure.
And Cave, I'm sorry. I keep saying Media City because Media City is the business, but Cave, the Center of Arts and Visual Education, is the nonprofit where we teach the kids. So the money that we make from Media City is what is able to afford us to do the programs and stuff with the kids.
And so, and we want to extend those resources so you can impact more children and more youth and more adults. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure right now people are listening to this, like, how do I sign up? Mm-hmm. Parents, the youth, everything. So tell people, especially as we start to land the plane, as I like to say,
right.
Tell people right now, how do they find out about Media City? How do they find out about learning, sign up? How do they donate?
There you go. First of all, you can go to mediacity.net. You could go contact me at Felix Natal Jr. at gmail.com, or you could call me directly at 201-923-6400. And if you'd like to donate, you can just give me a call and I'll give you the information. Appreciate you.
What I think is so amazing too is that you are keeping the legacy of your mentor when he said, whatever you do, and sorry if I get it wrong,
no.
teach someone else. Mm-hmm. And you've kept that alive. Was that something important for you to live out what he said to do?
It was kind of like what he said earlier, where it was like the compliment that he received, and then down the road is when you think about it. And I think, like I said, around 2012, like I said, when I'm going through the worst injury of my life, it just put my life in a different perspective. And I said, I knew from that point on that I needed to make money whether I was working or not working. So first thing I did was got into real estate, and then the second thing was we opened up, started looking for Media City.
Wow. So I want you to go back in time,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're looking at the younger Felix, who was in his element, dealing with his troubles and his turbulent youth. I want you to give that younger Felix advice. What would that advice be?
First thing would probably say stay in school, finish getting my college degree, because I'm actually contemplating. I've been talking to my wife this whole last week about whether to go back to school to finish my degree or get a business degree. So I was like, first thing I would say is stay in school, because sometimes every opportunity is not what it seems like it's going to be. Charge a lot faster. Because I think I shot maybe 5 years more or less, like for free before I actually started making money.
Y'all heard that?
Like something like that, where nowadays you can't even get someone to say they want to work 5 months or 5 days for free, let alone, 5 years. So, that first 5 years I barely made any type of money. And so I would definitely say, don't be afraid to charge. Don't let your fears or doubts get in your way, because a lot of the stuff that I did in my 30s and 40s, I could have probably did in my early 20s, especially the clothes and stuff. When I was at my peak in my career, I think that would have really probably took off crazy at that time. But invest, real estate. I'm gonna say that 5 times, real estate, because that's really the key to financial freedom and literacy. You know what I'm saying? So it's so important to, if you have any type of, I always tell money, you go to college, right? And you'll see all these tables, MasterCard, Citibank, Visa, American Express, right? But try to ask them for $10,000 for a loan for your business, right? You're gonna get denied, but they'll let you get into student debt, and they'll let you go be in credit debt, but utilize that credit for something powerful. So if you're gonna open up a line of credit, then do it to get a real estate investment or something that like it's a business, so you can make money from it, pay it off immediately, so that way your credit goes up, and that way the next time you want to do something else, it's easier, and then you build a relationship with that credit card company or that bank, and it's a lot easier for you to get funds.
Love it.
A lot of times I did everything cash, and everybody, that was the worst thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because I invested a lot of my own personal money that I should have utilized credit and things at that time. So,
how did you survive for 5 years without charging anyone?
Oh, working a regular job. I was working at a paramedic company. So I was working for an ambulance company through that time period. And the little jobs I did get, like the nightlife part, that I did get paid for. But as far as like photo shoots and stuff like that, I was still learning. So, but that was at that time. You gotta remember, when I started doing photography, that was like 93. So you're talking about like 93 to like 98. We didn't have no type of social media. We had no YouTube. We didn't have none of the things where people are blessed to have nowadays, where you could get exposure a lot quicker. Where in my day, if, let's just say Jadakiss, for example, I knew I shot Jadakiss at a venue a week before, and I knew he was gonna be in Patterson the next week. I would go with the pictures from the week before, show it to him, and then we exchange information, math, whatever, or, oh, if you ever need a photographer, give me a call. Nowadays, you guys have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these different ways to get in touch with your favorite artist, creative, brand. So it's much more simplified, where I didn't have that back then. So that's the good thing with today, where a lot of the youth, there's so much technology and so many things at your disposal. And even last week at the men's conference, Wallow said, it's like too many people don't realize this device we hold in our hand has so much information, and that you can learn anything at your disposal, where before we would have to go to the library, go to this, go that. Everything's at our disposal. So everything's so easy for these. So now it's so much simplified. So no, I wouldn't suggest in this day and age to work 5 years for free, because not at all. But of course, you got to be able to be willing to sacrifice too. I always tell this story, right? I got a phone call, right? One night on a Friday, I never forget. Someone called me and said, "You want to go to Miami tomorrow?" And I said, "Okay, cool. How much is it?" They said, $150. Hung up the phone, right? They called right back. They said, "But you didn't tell me who we were gonna. You didn't let me tell you who we were gonna shoot tomorrow." I said, "It doesn't matter. I'm not going all the way to Florida for $150. Like, we're gonna shoot Shaquille O'Neal." I was like, "I'm sorry. What time is the flight?" You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, the $150 damn sure didn't do anything. Didn't change my life in any form or fashion. But the relationship is still there to this day, and that's what sometimes people got to understand. You got to sacrifice sometimes to get really to the goal that you're trying to achieve. So you got to be willing to invest in yourself.
On the show, I always have like a ding, ding, ding moment. You know what I'm saying? When I tell people, like, I hope your antenna's up. He just mentioned some heavy gems about sacrifice and putting in that effort, and sometimes being patient, you know, for the reward.
Exactly.
And in this day and age where everything is instant, I call it the microwave mentality.
Of course.
Definitely got to develop that patience. I also respect the fact that they have a certain mentality too. Like, nah, I'm going to go get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people like, "Oh, I'm literally gonna just post something and I'm gonna achieve my goal, or I'm gonna go viral or whatever." All right, cool. That's what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? But each his own.
No doubt.
It's no longevity in that though. You know, you put that sweat equity in.
That's the difference. That's the difference. You know what I mean? Not everybody want to do that no more. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like you gotta be willing to put in the hard work. You know, not everybody wants things too simple.
Yeah.
You know, nobody really want to work hard. Everybody wants things like instant. You know what I mean? It's sad, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that the truth will always prevail, and there's no denying that. You got to put in the work. You could do all the BBLs and all of that you want, bro. You got to put in the work.
And every successful person, real successful person, I'll tell you, they all put in mad hard work. They started from somewhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even with Apple, with the garage, I mean, there's so many different, you hear all these success stories, but they all come from very humble beginnings.
Yeah, even, you know, your favorite artists, they talk about being in the studio for so long and having to take pills to sleep because they're jumping from plane to plane, radio show to radio show, or podcast to podcast. And
exactly. It's not a game.
Right. So eventually you're going to face the truth, like, oh, I got to work.
You cherish it more also.
Oh yeah, of course. That. You appreciate it.
If you had, like, those nights when you're thinking like all those sacrifices that you personally put in, and then seeing those rewards, you're not gonna let it go easily. You know, you're gonna fight to keep it going.
Exactly. Exactly. Like I said, through COVID and everything, when seeing all these businesses close and the quote unquote the perfect quote unquote cop out to say, okay, I could quit right now because I have an excuse. I'm gonna get my money back if I quit right now. But nah, I couldn't settle for that because I knew that this is what we're supposed to do. And honestly, he'll tell you, even with the youth program, like he interviewed me, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
And we just literally got approved 2 weeks ago. And we talked about that at that time frame. That's how long of a night, how much drama and the nightmare, how much red tape it was to finally see my dream come into full fruition now. Where hopefully now I'll start getting grants and, you know, funds and all this stuff. I've been doing all this with the money that I raise on my own through the gift shop, whatever we have at the facility, whether it's selling the brand, the toys, whatever we have at the spot, 100% of the proceeds go to the youth. But now it's like, now I can finally go after like grants and funds in different ways. So I'm excited to see what we could do.
Yeah, this is for me like a surreal moment, because when I interviewed you the first time for the Food for Thought Fridays, Media City was just born. You know, I remember you took me throughout all the rooms. Some of the rooms weren't even like developed yet.
Nope.
You know, but you were telling me this is going to be this. This is going to be this. And we did the interview in the Infinity Room because it was my favorite room. And so to see what you're doing now, and thank you for pointing that out. Like, wow, yeah, that was a while ago.
There you go.
That was a while.
And most people would have quit. Most people would just forget about this. You know what I'm saying? And literally, that's what I said. But again, as when my faith come in, it's a God thing, because let's just say 6 years I'm trying to get this thing to go through. Brick wall, brick wall, brick wall, brick wall, brick wall. I give it in my church, literally like maybe 5 months ago, done. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, why did I was hitting all these brick walls, right? Doing the same exact thing they did. So I was just like, it was just whatever they did. I guess it was meant for, to go through the church to do it, whatever. I just had nothing but blessings from it. So, and everything has been literally trickling down, like the Patterson Police Department getting involved, the city's getting involved. They want me to get, to go to other schools in the city. It's just, like I said, I'd rather the kids come to me.
It's interesting you say that because I spoke at a school 24, and the VP, the vice principal, was like, do you know Felix Natal? I was like, yeah, we're actually doing an interview this week. And so that was interesting.
Yeah, they asked me to go there. I think it was the career day? He just did it?
Career day.
Yeah, they asked me to come too. I had something that day. I wanted to go. I mean, my son actually went to school 24, so I actually wanted to go, but I just couldn't go. But I will definitely do something with them in the future. But I told her too, same thing. I feel like the kids wouldn't gravitate to me the same way.
It's better, for them to see it.
Yeah, it's like, it's different, you know what I mean? Because again, it's not about, I'm not trying to brag or any of that. It's like kids come to the spot, you know what I'm saying? They see, the collection, they'll see the memorabilia from all the different athletes. Then they see the pictures on the wall, and then I'll be like, yeah, I took every picture you see in the building except for the young Shaq pick and the Cole pick. Mm-hmm. And they're like, everything? I'm like, yeah, everything. So they'll start asking, so how was Lil Wayne? How was Gucci Mane? How was Michael B. Jordan? How was this one? And they're like, how did this start? And I tell them, and I'm like, bro, I come from where you come from. I come from poverty, nothing. So if I could do this, why can't you? You can. Doesn't matter your environment. Doesn't matter whether you have parents, one parent, no parents. Doesn't matter what it is. You can do it.
Disability.
Yes, doesn't matter. None of it. You could do it. It's just you got to be passionate and driven and want it bad enough.
Powerful. What is the secret to being successful?
That's simple. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Go the extra mile. Do all the things you would want them to do for you. Treat them like, you know them forever, even though you don't. Treat everybody the same way. It doesn't matter whether they look like the wealthiest person in the room or they look like the poorest person in the room. You treat them with all the same respect because you never know who's who. I've learned that over the years too, big time. Like thinking that person wasn't anybody and finding out they were the biggest shot in the room. So never judge anybody by how their appearance, their dress. Cause they're like you said, you're about a millionaire, you're so humble. Like a lot of these millionaires don't look like millionaires.
Yo, that's a big fact.
They're not sporting, all this designer stuff or jewelry, none of that. They look very humble and poor, most of the time. Simple. Very simple. Too, very simple.
I had a client that was lived in a mansion and everything. I actually sent it to my children. I took a picture of the mansion, right? Of course, no private information is shown or nothing like that, just the house. And in the driveway was a Jeep. And I told him, look what you see in the driveway. A Jeep, bro. A regular Jeep. You know what I mean? A millionaire with a Jeep. I think I might have even sent the message to you or something like, yo, this is a millionaire. He's driving a Jeep. Yeah. So
a lot of times you see them like, even, I won't say the promoter's name, but dude getting hella money. And I used to see him always to come always meet me to pick up the pictures in the Honda Civic. And I'm like, dude, you made like $100,000 last night. I'm looking at him like, but simple. They kept it simple. And I noticed over the years, most successful people are like that, very simple, plain. They don't want a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, what I learned,
unless it's an athlete. Athletes are more, you know what I'm saying?
Well, they want to be like rappers.
Yeah, like ego driven, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So a lot of time, but other than that, nah. They're simple. Most people are simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I find too. And they're super peace, super chill, and they're willing to offer advice and help out.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's the difference too. Where in our case, where everybody's trying to hold on to the information, right? They don't want to see you past them, but in that case, they're like, this guy ain't no threat to me. They'll give you that information and share it with you. I remember I did the Power Networking Conference like 3 years ago, and the main speaker was Mike Roberts. He's a billionaire from Chicago. He owns like all the hotels and all this stuff across the Chicago River. And dude is super cool, super humble, talked to everybody, took pictures with everybody, answered everyone's questions. Dude was a billionaire. He didn't have to do that, and mad humble. You know what I'm saying? It's usually the people that have the least that are the most arrogant, and the people that have the most is the most laid back.
I have 3 more questions for you.
Yes, sir.
So tell us what's...
Real quick, before you ask that, you've mentioned several times about God and your relationship with God, and I just want to highlight that real quick. What has your the role of spirituality, no matter what your faith is. How has that helped you as a business person, as an entrepreneur, and just as a family man altogether?
Well, kind of like what you said. I'm trying to remember how you said it earlier. I meant to say it when you said it. Was if you say it earlier, it was the morals. That's what it was, right? Because that's the hardest part. Because now, as a man of God, I try to avoid all the things that I'm most known for. So it's hurt my financial side of the business part because I choose not to shoot certain kind of content because of my faith and my beliefs. Because I feel like, how do I say I want to help inspire the next generation creators or help these kids, and then you as a parent say, okay, you know, I like this guy's message. I love his energy. You go look me up and all you see is, you know, eye candy stuff. You might feel insecure, like where you're going to be like, is this what my son or my daughter is going to be learning? And so that's where I was like, I have to cross that fine line where it's like, no, I know that God put this in my heart to help the kids. And that's why I said once Media City does what it's supposed to do, in other words, make more money than I do alone, because right now it's the opposite. What sustains me is photography. I want it to be where Media City and the youth program is what sustains me, not photography. But God is, oh man, he's the center of my life. He's everything to me. You know what I'm saying? He saved my life, literally. You know what I mean? I was in a real bad place when I tore my Achilles tendon and got addicted to pain pills and Percocet, you know, and I tried to take my life. And God didn't let that happen. You know?
Beautiful, powerful. That's an amazing, inspiring story. It's amazing. Yo, mind detect mind. That was actually one of my questions. So now I have two questions.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you have a favorite book or a favorite like quote or anything like that?
I mean, of course, my favorite book I'm gonna say is the Bible. You know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I read that. I mean, I know it's cliche, but you know, everything strengthens me through Christ. You know, so that's like my go-to. But I'm trying to get better with the books. You know what I mean? Like I'm more of an audio book listener than an actual book, like, you know, reading books. So I'm trying to get better in that department. My wife was saying that recently. She was proud of me with that because that's always been, I guess, one part I always wanted to strengthen more, vocabulary and being able to read a lot more.
Yeah, I just want to highlight this before I ask the last question, unless you have another question. And this is just for everybody, you know. I noticed that your wife, and in a book, which is a book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about how your wife, you know, and that's what he taught. He says your wife is the most important person in your mastermind. And mastermind, are you familiar with the mastermind principle? You are, okay. So I think that it's amazing that you have a woman that's been there through all your trials and tribulations. And what I'm hearing too is that she's always, I don't want to use the word always because I know relationships go up and down, but you keep referencing and mentioning how she's building you up. Like, yo, oh man,
all the time,
finished another book, great job.
All the time.
You know, nah, listen, you need to talk. That's your calling. And so I think that's a characteristic of a great woman based on what I was taught and what I've experienced having a great woman myself. And it doesn't always feel good. You know, I'm part of a men's group, and one of the things that they teach us is that our wives, right, especially when it's true love, they want us to be the best version of ourselves. And so whenever they complain or they get on us or nag or something like that, look at those comments and what have you from that space that they want us to be the best version of ourselves. So I think that that's amazing. I just wanted to highlight that because I think for us adults and even young people who are having sex and entering relationships, this is who you want to be with. You want somebody that's going to be with you through the ups and downs and build you up, not tear you down or leave as soon as something wrong happens.
Man. Trust me, man. I say that with my own kids. I'm like, man, finding a good woman in this day and age for you guys, man, I'm praying for you, man, because between social media and everyone's morals nowadays is not the same. So it's a sad place. So, I'm like stressing them, you know, be patient, look for good women. You know, my oldest son, you know, he has a, you know, good girl now. Peace. But I'm like, you know, like you got to make sure it's important that, you know, that's the person that's going to uplift you, bring you up. Is going to roll with you through the good, the bad, the ugly. Like you see how your stepmom does. Like that's the type of person you want, because they know all the ins and outs. Like, you know, they know all the things I've been through.
And it's a marathon, right?
Of course.
It's a marathon.
And they know, and as much as they don't like, they know how I was before.
Right.
As much as I don't like to glorify that
my
person.
children too.
Glorify that person, but they know the type of individual I used to be like. So I'm like, for me to change, like at times they say, Dad, they're like, I hate that you like Mace, Pastor Mace now, right? You know, be honest. Like, they're like, I hate that you like Pastor Mace now because you're not as fun and all this other stuff. But I'm like, well, you want me to be the type of person I was before? Like, without getting into too much detail, like, how is that positive?
Mm-hmm.
How's that positive? How is that being a great influence to your brother? How is that being good to your mom or to my community? And he's like, that's that Pastor Mace stuff again.
Yeah. And that's important for people to hear, though, right?
Yeah.
That stuff, especially, you know, no disrespect to your son,
Yeah.
especially to the immature, right?
No, you're right. He is very. I'll say it too. I look at the camera. You're immature.
Yeah.
Mad immature.
He said it. But, you know, like, that stuff does seem fun. Like, the negative does seem fun. You know, it's lit, so to speak, as they say, right? But
like, oh, Dad, you was super lit. Like, they see the girls, this and that. I'm like, yeah, but what's cool about that? Don't you see that? Isn't it better to be with one woman that really values, appreciates you, loves you, wants to be with you for no matter what the circumstances is?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So essentially, we have to learn what's really valuable. All right. So, brother, what would you want to be remembered as?
As a great man of God, as a person that always try to help people and be a blessing. Pretty much, yeah. Awesome. Photography is cool, but it's like I want to be remembered for more than that. Just that. I feel like that was my job. That's not who I am as a person.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Any last words to the people?
Oh yes, definitely. Number one. Stay tuned. With God's grace, we will be opening up a media city this summer in Patterson at the historical Calvary Baptist Church on East 18th Street. So we already have the classes, everything set up. We already applied for the grants for the equipment. So I would love to have any kids from Patterson specifically. You could contact Lieutenant Sharon or Calvary Baptist Church or myself and to enroll your child. Can't wait to meet you guys. Much love. God bless.
Did you say your social media already?
I'm sorry. Social media, everything, Instagram, Facebook is Felix Natal Jr, FelixNataljr, and the THE Media City Studio on everything. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Thank you for all the work you're doing, brother.
No problem. Thank you for having me, brother. Much love.
Definitely.
Much respect.
Peace.